Well, hi, Senator Butler. It is such an honor to be on this call with you. My name is Jennifer Lee, and I'm a Youth Advisory Board member at the Born This Way Foundation. I identify as a disabled and Asian American woman, and I'm really passionate about the intersectionality of mental health advocacy and the importance of bringing people of color and the disability community to the table for these conversations. I've been working with the Born This Way Foundation to highlight the importance of navigating and destigmatizing mental health for young people with disabilities, especially since disability is a universal and innately human experience. And it's so important to have senators such as yourself who really listen to our voices. So, Senator Butler, you have been such a champion for young people and for building coalitional support around mental health. This is a cause that's so near and dear to my heart, and to be speaking with you today is such a privilege. And so with that, I would love to ask you about how you have spent your term engaging young people and addressing mental health in diverse communities. And so my first question for you is, how can decision makers more meaningfully engage young people in policy discussions around mental health?
I appreciate the question, Jennifer. Thank you for your leadership and just sort of showing up for your community to make a difference and be an agent of change. No change happens if all of us are sitting on the sidelines. It takes us all choosing to put ourselves in the arena, as Secretary Clinton reminded us just a few years back. Specific to your question about policymakers and young people, look, it's a choice. It is a choice to decide the importance of the voices of the next generation, those who will live with the policies that are being passed today, those who are going to live with under those terms the longest, in my opinion, have to be at the table in the conversation and continually engaged. It's for me, it is as much about learning from young leaders in California as I am sort of sharing with them about what's going on in Washington, whether we're talking about mental health or TikTok or the minimum wage or economic opportunity, protecting our democracy, which is going to be in in the hands of young leaders here in the blink of an eye. And so it's choosing to build the relationship, it's choosing to listen and be vulnerable and appreciate that you don't have all the answers and that you don't know everything. And being open to new opinions, new ideas, I think finally, just giving the reality of the acceptance of reality that you know society changes and it evolves, and not many of us know what Kamala Harris's brat even meant when it came out. So it's like being able to have those relationships to be able to have the conversation.
Absolutely. And Senator, you're so correct. It is a choice. And I think the way in which Gen Z is able to really work together across the generational divide is contingent on senators like yourself. And so even with your Youth Advisory Council, thank you for creating space for those voices. I know that traditionally our voices haven't always been heard. And so I feel so lucky that we get this chance to work together with the Born This Way Foundation and to be focusing on topics like mental health. And when I think about mental health, I often think about the communities that have barriers to entry in which we are not always talking about these issues. And so, what steps are being taken to ensure that mental health initiatives are inclusive and effective for diverse communities, including disabled and minority youth?
I appreciate this question so much, Jennifer. When I was working in the labor movement, I worked on behalf of long-term care workers, those who provided care to people who were seniors and living in their home communities, or people who were providing care to the disabled community. And people living with disabilities. And so I learned so much about the resilience and commitment and determination to ensure that, and the work that has gone into ensuring that policies are reflective of the people living with disabilities continuously. And so, to your point about barriers to entry, one of the things that I'm really excited about in this next package of youth mental health services that I'm introducing here in the Senate is inclusive and requires the study and impact on mental health services and their accessibility around particular demographics. And I was intentional on including communities with disabilities, people living with disabilities in that legislation so that we could understand what the accessibility of mental health resources that are available, understand the kind of utilization that is needed, the kind of specialties, maybe services and training and education that may be required, so that we can truly deliver those kinds of culturally competent services that all people need, want, and deserve. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. And I know just from, again, my background in working with the disability community and advocates from that community, it is the loud, unrelenting voice to demand recognition that is going to be key to any policy moving forward. It's not just on the responsibility of the policy maker, but working hand in hand with that advocacy community. And I think that's where we get our best policy outcomes.
1,000%. And Senator, I love the idea of having that partnership. I think that oftentimes people see these parties at a conflict with one another, but I think there's such opportunity for the disability community and for young people in general to really work with our policymakers to create space at the table. And your work in the labor movement has had such amazing and resonant effects across these generations. And so one of my favorite sayings from the disability community and our advocacy world is nothing about us without us. And so truly creating that space goes such a long way. And I've been thinking a lot about how to take care of myself while also trying to be a young person living through history and constantly living through unprecedented times. And so when I think about personal mental health support, can I ask, why is it important to support your mental health as you navigate your advocacy work?
Look, I think from my own point of view, and I appreciate that it is my own point of view and experience. The work of advocacy can often bring about its own challenges and internal obligation and responsibility, never wanting to let those down on that are counting on you to either advance a policy or to open a door of opportunity. That sense of obligation, that sense of commitment, it can wear the time commitment that is required most often to be successful, and in a space of community and leadership, just making yourself open and available for others who are having struggles to come and talk to you. You need to, make yourself, make sure that you yourself are well and in tip-top condition in order to be able to be the best advocate on behalf of your community. And so taking care of ourselves as advocates, as organizers, as policymakers, as leaders, is just as critically important as the those on whose behalf we are advocating. And so I appreciate the question very much. So often we think that as advocates or organizers that we can just go and it's all about the outcome. It's all about the outcome. And sometimes we get to those finish lines, the end of the campaign, the deadline for bill passage, and we realize that we ourselves are not well or have lost sight of our own mental wellness. And so it is a great point, and I think we've got to all be good community members and stunning colleagues to help to remind each other that our care too is so critically important.
Yeah.
Senator, you talk the talk, but you also walk the walk. And for that, I'm so grateful. I think sometimes, especially to see mentors and models that I can see myself in, to see a woman of color in a position of power, it means so much. And I think that setting that standard for what it looks like to practice self care in a really meaningful way and not just in a superficial sense goes such a long way for all of us. And so I know that I continue to see all the work that's being done, and I'm so proud to have you serving in the Senate. And so, my last question in terms of the mental health scope is when we talk about collaborations with community organizations, how important is it to collaborate with local community organizations to address those needs? And how do you keep the pulse of those grassroots nonprofits while you're in Senate?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. Look, I believe that partnership is vital. Collaborative engagement is the best way that we get to the most impactful product, whether we're talking
Mm.
about policy, again, or local ordinances. It is federal policy or local ordinances. It is the only true way that people can, that you can hear the full perspective and range of impact on the ideas that you're having, but most importantly, on those who are impacted, that whose voices are most critical. And so, it is as much, it is more important to me to be able to connect with community organizations on the ground, whether it's in California or New York or through a network of partners that are reflected in the Born This Way. Being able to make a call and know that Born This Way can connect me to young leaders on the ground across the country is critically important to making sure that we're advancing policies that actually move the needle, that actually does change and make things better for young leaders across the country. And I just think it makes for a richer policy and a richer experience as a policy maker and as an advocate. Being able to appreciate that we are coming to this with the same objective, but from different perspectives. That we all can find ways to find common ground, even when we have different responsibilities. And so it is that kind of coalition building is key. The partners, even when you're not, in Washington or in California, being able to get a holistic perspective is essential. And it's in my opinion, the only true way that we make it real, make our commitments mean something when we say, everyone has a seat at the table. We're truly creating that table for people to do that.
Common ground can be hard to find these days. And so being able to work together across those organizations means the world. And I know the Born This Way Foundation is so committed to supporting and uplifting the voices of young people from all different paths of life. And it has been such a privilege to be with you on this call today, Senator. Before we close, I have a few rapid fire questions that I've been itching to ask you. What keeps you fighting for the people?
The people. I have a 9-year-old daughter. Honestly, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and every day it is everyday people who choose to do something extraordinary that gives me hope for what will be when it is her turn.
And Senator, what is one word to describe your leadership style?
Mm, 2 words, 3 words, duck on water.
That certainly leaves me a lot to think about. And and what is one piece of advice that you would give to young advocates like myself?
Don't let the algorithms choose your friends.
Hmm. Certainly so fitting for people in Gen Z and those of us who are always on our phone. I know I'm trying to reduce my screen time, but that is
Then
very
the
true.
algorithm feeds you everything that you already know and people who are just like you. Like life becomes
Yeah.
more interesting when you actually are able to engage with people who might think differently.
Yeah. Breaking out of the echo chamber, especially from where I am in DC. And so trying my best to be able to break out of there. And last but not least, Senator, what is one word to describe the future of youth advocacy?
Strong. I think that anyone who believes that young people today are apathetic or disengaged really aren't paying attention. They aren't paying attention to the advocacy that happens in the ways in which this generation displays their power, whether that's online or in real life. It is a strong and bright future.
I certainly know that I feel more hopeful after having this call with you, Senator. And might I ask, might we take a selfie to cap off this interview?
Sure, go
I'll do it
ahead.
on my phone if that works. All right,
Yeah, do
I'll do
it.
it. 1, 2, 3. All right. Well, thank you so much, Senator Butler. That's all from me, but thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to
Of
the Born
course.
This Way Foundation for setting this up.
Thank you, Jen. You be well, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Senator.
Bye-bye.